Hello and welcome to The Hero Spouse. I'm Kenda Ruth, here to answer one of your questions about marriage and midlife crisis. Today we have an anonymous female left behind and forward-moving spouse. Her bomb drop was October 1st, 2021, and her date of marriage is 2011. She has a boomerang who is a high-energy replayer. She asks, is midlife crisis a hereditary phase? I never met my father-in-law as he passed away prior to my meeting my ex-husband. I have always heard stories about him. I was thinking the other day, and our story seems similar. My ex-husband has always taken his dad's side and idolized him. I'm just wondering if it's a real thing. Yeah, it is. I think I wouldn't use the word hereditary. When we use hereditary, we think of genes and genetics. So it's a nature versus nurture. And if we're talking genetics, it is in our genes. And maybe we could say it's in our genes in the sense of it's in our human DNA. But all human, perhaps. It's more a legacy. This is one family who goes through this is more likely to repeat these patterns. And that's where it happens. So we see it all the time in father-son, mother-daughter, or mother-son and father-daughters, that they do the same thing that their parents did. Oftentimes that they said they were never going to be like that parent. So your father-in-law experienced this in the sense that it sounds like he was the one doing it, and your husband is now following his patterns. Rather than thinking of the specifics in your situation, because I don't know them, but this is common. And I think the questions that we really have, many of us often have with this is, what about my own children? What can I do about them? Because is this going to happen to my children? And it's not an always, is this going to? It's that there's a possibility that it can happen to it. And of course, there's a possibility it can happen to all of us. And we're talking about not us finding someone who does it to us, but in this context, we're saying, is my son or my daughter going to do this to their spouse? Is the probability higher than that they aren't? Is it above 50%? Who knows? But in general, it is probably higher than general population. That includes those that didn't have it. It is higher if they have a divorce in their family. It is higher if they have trauma and the levels of trauma. It is higher if their parents, one of their parents did this to the family. Yeah. So it's not hereditary, it's legacy. We learn what we saw and the patterns and how that parent coped. And when these things happen to us, even though we might not be associating with what our parents did to us, we fall back into the negative coping skills we've used or those we observed and have learned, even if we haven't used all of them yet. But, well, this is what people do in marriages, because this is what my parents did in marriage. But we're not using those words in our brain. It's just the actions are matching up. Okay, sorry, I know it sucks, but I hope this is helpful. And helping your own children is you have to be there, help them heal and get them therapy. And there's not going to be a guarantee, but do everything we can to mitigate the levels of trauma. We can't shelter them, and they need to have some back and forth, and they need to learn to be out in the real world where things are hard, but help them through it with resiliency. Help them build that resiliency. So I will see everybody in the next question.